evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sports Wrap. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by Cody Smink. Welcome back, Cody.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Mike Santos. Welcome back to this big show, Mike, the one that you sponsor.
Thanks, Scott.
Good to have you. All right, well, let's get to it. Lots of soccer news. We're going to talk about hockey as well. And we'll begin with hockey. And that's it. Fighting in Olympic hockey will result in a major penalty and a game misconduct. What they've actually done for the game is usually Olympic hockey keeps a focus on speed, skill, and flow. Mike, some thoughts about what Olympic hockey does?
Well, obviously, Olympic hockey's changed with the participation of NHL players, which started in the late 90s. I believe 98. Does that sound right? Yeah, 98.
Yeah.
And but before that, it was truly an amateur sport, even though people would say the Russians sent their professional athletes back in the day, and that's why they won so many gold medals. But it was essentially a amateur sport, and of course, fighting has never been permitted in any way in amateur sports. So I think that's where the history comes from. If they're going to proceed with NHL level players in the Olympics, it makes sense to me that they should allow fighting to the extent they do in NHL games, which is a 5-minute major penalty. So I think that's a logical step. I don't know that means that I'm for fighting or against fighting, but if they're going to have players that play under rules a certain way, they should play under the same rules when they get to the Olympics.
Well, the one thing I've noticed during the Olympics is certainly the physicality of hockey exists. It's just they're not really allowed to go at it, and you don't see everybody taking the gloves off. But physicality has been good, but everybody knows in North America that fighting is certainly a part of the game, but you just don't see it overseas. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, the other thing that was also a big difference prior to the NHL players participating in the Olympics was the size of the ice surface. And that was a big problem in the first Olympics that NHL players participated in. If people remember, the U.S. team and the Canadian team were duds, even with players such as Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and all these superstars of the day. And the biggest reason was they weren't accustomed to playing on the big ice surface, and the European players were. And that's why you had, I believe, in the first Olympics that the NHL players participated in, the Czechs won it with Dominik Hasek in goal. But those players were just more accustomed to playing on the big ice surface, and the angles are different for everybody from goaltenders to defensemen. There's an extra 5 feet on either side, or 10 feet overall in width that these defensemen have to cover when forwards are coming down on them one-on-one or trying to beat them along the wall. The corners are a lot deeper. There's a lot more room behind the net. And so it was just a different game, and the NHL players weren't accustomed to it.
Yeah, Mario Lemieux is definitely a beast. Good to have Ann W. Rose in the room. Thank you very much. Hi, how you doing? Glad to have you in the chat room. Thanks for participating. Yeah, Mario Lemieux's a beast, wasn't he? On the ice, Wayne Gretzky, two of the bigger names for sure. Yeah. Definitely drawing cards. Go ahead, Code. I'm your first chat. First, could be a good
trust me, I'm all for fighting in the NHL. I think I kind of understand why they don't want it, just because I believe they've, under the IIHF rules, since the younger kids follow the same rules, I believe that's why they don't want to, allow the fighting. But I think for the Olympics, I think they should change it. I understand they don't want as much fighting because they want to focus more on the hockey side and not have like a Tampa Bay versus Florida kind of matchup kind of thing, where we have like 500 penalty minutes in one game. I think, trust me, I think it would help hockey if we got something like that on the national stage, but I can see why they don't allow it. I mean, I don't think it's ruined. It hasn't ruined watching it for me with the no fighting.
Right. Let me tell you something. Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no, Tampa Bay Lightning. Okay, that's not fighting. That's a war.
Yeah.
teams go at it. It's different than
Well, I mean,
in a war. And the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning, you've ever seen these two teams play? And I have seen them play a few times.
yeah.
Definitely a war, that's for sure. So.
Well, trust me, it's like Ducks and Kings. I've seen it there too, and not as much as what we've seen with Florida and Tampa Bay this year. But I mean, if you get the Finland Sweden game or USA Canada game, it could end up like that.
Right. Well, it was in the Four Nations last year. It got ugly. But again, you're talking the Olympics. I mean, these guys are looking to go at it from the minute they got, but when you take them across the pond, it becomes a different story. That's for sure. All right, onward we go. Okay, Lucas Raymond leads all Swedes. And that before the Olympics, it was 60 going into the Olympics. Well, he added 9 more points in 5 games, 69 points total. Sweden ends up losing to the United States 2-1. Let's talk about some more about Lucas Raymond per se. This guy's a world-class player, and I'll tell you what, we're starting to see it, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, that's no joke when you start talking about that number of points, for sure. And again, I mean, this type of tournament is suited for the way he plays. There's a lot more space out there in this type of game. Just by the way these players play. They play a lot differently in this tournament than they do during the regular season. Part of that, of course, is because they're familiar with each other from playing against each other, but there's not a lot of guys on these teams that are teammates, and it's certainly not a team full of teammates. So, there's some adjustment. They have a little camp or so in the end of the summer, but it's really they finish their last NHL game, they get on a plane and they show up in Italy and start playing with different sweaters on. So yeah, I can see it, but take nothing away from him. He's shown to be a really good player and certainly a guy that's got some offensive ability.
Cody?
I mean, Lucas Raymond is someone I think any team would love to have on their team. I feel like he's someone that can learn to play any way and play well at that kind of way. So Lucas Raymond, I think, is just, he's a different animal when it comes to, playing with all these different players like this. And I feel like he's been the motor for Sweden in this Olympics. I mean, because they lost Leo Carlson. They lost, what was the other Swedish player? But like I said, they've been down with injuries. Elias Pettersson hasn't been himself since he got that big contract. So Lucas Raymond has really taken over the Swedish, points and stuff like that. So it's good for him to get there.
From a long distance standpoint, Steve Yzerman's got to be loving what he's seeing in the Olympics. And I think that's what makes these games so important, how your own team can see what you can do on the international stage, let alone a stage this size. So Steve Yzerman's got to be loving everything. And to see him get 9 points in 5 games is truly a remarkable accomplishment.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to soccer. Inter Miami is now Major League Soccer's most valuable team, according to Sportico. $250 million in projected 2026 revenue, 1.45 billion valuation, up from 585 million pre-Lionel Messi. There are now 5 MLS teams. Get this. This is interesting. With 1 billion in valuations, you got Inter Miami leading the pack, 1.45 billion. Then you have Los Angeles Football Club, 1.4 billion. LA Galaxy, 1.17 billion. Atlanta United, 1.14 billion. New York City Football Club, 1.12 billion. Mike, you got 5 in a billion. That's surreal.
Yeah, and you've got in Miami in particular, you've got the perfect situation, right? You've got, one of the largest international celebrities of soccer as an owner, right?
Right.
Who's married to an international celebrity, who as his wife. You're in a huge international market in Miami with many different cultures, people who especially come from countries where soccer is king. Then you've got, one of the top two players in the world still playing for your team with a guy like Messi. And then you win your first championship. And when do you do this all? You do this all months before you open your new, billion-dollar stadium in Miami. So it just all came together for them. And you talk about those other markets, which are also great markets and great markets when it comes to, the international people that they have and live in those markets, right? It's not necessarily what you see in places like Middle America, for instance.
Right.
But in these types of cities, like LA, for me, jumps out again. I mean, it's just such a good market for soccer because of the international culture and all the people from different nations that live there. And it's the same in Miami. So with the way things are going and with the private equity money that's pouring into all sports, but especially soccer, we maybe haven't noticed it as much because it's just starting to grow like this in this country. But look at what's gone on in Saudi Arabia with the money for those leagues and luring a guy like Ronaldo there. So yeah, I think it's awesome. It's awesome that soccer is getting that kind of recognition and being valued that way.
And to answer Nico's question, okay, this is not a podcast about other men and their wives and their lives. That's not the case. With so much news in there, you guys talk about soccer. Well, yeah, obviously the World Cup. You ever heard of it? It's a pretty big tournament. So think about it, Nico. I'll probably appreciate you being in the chat room for sure. So David Beckham's involved, obviously. Ronaldo, you got some pretty big names in the wonderful world of soccer. Anything you want to add to that, Cody?
I mean, can you imagine if Cristiano Ronaldo came to LA Galaxy like he was supposed to? And yeah, exactly. I know that was the rumor, but then I think he decided to go to Saudi Arabia. But yeah, it's definitely blown up over there too. But no, like I said, I'm excited that soccer's growing more and more. Like the more I grow up, because I mean, we only had I think 10 teams when I was growing up, and now we're adding and expanding the MLS more and more, and now we're seeing all these great soccer players coming to America to play. Beckham, we had Messi. I remember when Steven Gerrard came from Liverpool. There was a couple of other Chelsea players that came down. Like I was happy to see Ashley Cole from Chelsea come down to play Galaxy. Like it's so much fun to see. Was it Thierry Henry from Arsenal came down and played for the New York Red Bulls? Frank Lampard from Chelsea played for New York City FC. Like it's so much fun to see these top talent guys come to America and try here and praise that they loved playing here. Right. And then now you got Messi coming down here, and I didn't think that. I know with everything going on with Inter Miami would, is why they have the highest value. I thought it would have been Galaxy because of their history. The 5 or 6 MLS Cups. They had Landon Donovan, Kobe Jones. They've had a lot of great talent there. I know they've had some down years, but like they have a lot of history there. So, but I'm glad Inter Miami is really expanding MLS more, especially when you got mini Barcelona over there. Like I said, it's all great for soccer.
All right, let's go back to Nico's comments. This one really intrigues me a little bit. I'm going to get it out there. There isn't much entertainment in a podcast about soccer. That's a good point. There really isn't, Nico, which is why we actually want to talk about it, to try to give those diehard soccer fans an opportunity to get some information. Itself is a really cultural sport, which you're right about that, and not really an entertainment sport like NFL or basketball. We can tell you're definitely an NFL or basketball. And you know what, Nico? We have a lot of programs that you can actually watch if you're a subscriber that talk about those sports. But I'm glad you brought about soccer, which is one of the reasons we're trying to take soccer and hockey and put them both together, because what they have in common is they do have goals on each end of the playing surface. So, it's a pretty...
And goalies.
I like this guy. not Nika. It's pretty good stuff that you brought it up. I just want to make sure that you understand that soccer is one of the biggest sports in the world, and there probably aren't a lot of sports voted, I don't know, at least in the United States to it. But that's why we try to be a lot different here on the network to make sure that we accommodate lots of different tastes. So actually, Nico, thanks for putting that in there. We appreciate you very much. Okay, so with that said, okay, let's continue on the theme that the ticket to a World Cup final actually reaches 230,000 US dollars. FIFA President Gianna Infantino said the prices will be wildly inflated due to resellers. Okay, Cody.
Oh, sorry. Which one? Or the tickets for the World Cup? Oh,
Yeah.
God. That's why I'm probably not looking forward to trying to find tickets for that because I wasn't in the. I didn't get. I think Mike, you said you put in for the World Cup, didn't you, for the tickets?
I did not get selected.
Oh, see, like if you didn't, I probably most likely wouldn't have either. As much as I'd love to go to games, it's probably gonna be a little bit too expensive for me. Even the parking at SoFi alone is gonna be too expensive for me. It's like $300 just to park there. But like I said, as much as I would love to go, I understand people wanting to get to make money and stuff like that. But if we're trying to grow the game, reselling tickets for that much profit is, I think, a little bit ridiculous. And I get what they're doing. I respect it, but still annoyed by it because someone like me who wants to go to a game now has to pay thousands of dollars just to get one ticket, and it's probably in the nosebleeds. So, but like I said, I'll be watching comfortably at home.
Nika, I like the respectfulness that you mentioned in there. Y'all can get me. No, we're pretty easy going in here. I hope you don't get the wrong idea, but we're just trying to go ahead and respond to what you put in there. We're just trying to be fair, easy, and objective. At least I like to think we are, Mike and Cody. Don't you? We're just trying to put the facts out there. The guy makes a good point about soccer not having a lot of intention. We're trying to give it to that and then some. I like this guy for some reason. Nika,
if you really want to watch if you really want to watch good soccer every year, I recommend watching Champions League. You got the top teams going against each other from all over, like in Europe. Like I said, great talent, and you're always going to get very good games there. So I that's what I would recommend. And those games are a lot easier to watch than most of the Premier League that starts at like 4:00 in the morning, at least my time. So I'm just trying to help you guys out with time wise as well.
Okay. Mike, what are your thoughts about the ticket prices? 230 grand. Holy moly! You can do a lot of money with that. Do a lot with that kind of coin.
I think it's really unfortunate that we're having a World Cup in this country, and most of the people in this country are not going to be able to attend one of these matches. I mean, we're probably the country in the world that FIFA would love to see the game grown in. Let's face it. I mean, we're still far behind the rest of the world when it comes to soccer, as Nico points out.
Right.
And but yet, the United States is a leader in the world, despite what some people might think one way or the other politically these days. We're still a world leader in a lot of ways, in many ways, and maybe even most ways. But we're not in soccer, and I think for the growth of the game internationally and worldwide, it would be great for the game to grow in the United States or even in North America. And when you have something as big as the World Cup, and it's the biggest next to probably the Olympic Games, summer and winter, and then people from this country are prohibited from going because of these types of prices.
Yeah.
Most of the people attending these matches that are all going to be in North America are going to be coming from abroad.
Right.
And they're the ones going to be coming over and paying these ridiculous prices because it's that important to them. It's that big. And I think FIFA is missing a real opportunity to grow the game more in the United States, which ultimately would help the game internationally more than anything else.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better than you, so you won't get a comment from me. Go ahead, Cody.
No, I was gonna say what's also going to help is I know with a lot of with the World Cup when it being abroad or a different country, you're also like what we do with the Olympics, the times of the games. You know, some of them are starting when we're asleep or when we're at work. At
Mhm.
least now, if well, it's in America, it's going to be a lot easier for Americans to watch these games because they're going to be on prime time America time, not prime time, you know, Europe or Australia or somewhere else. It's going to be you'll probably get a lot more television views, but like I said, because of the prime time, time zones and everything. Like you're going to get 7 o'clock games or 4 o'clock games, and a lot more people are going to be able to watch these games now.
I think all three of us would agree that we became real fans of sports, hockey, baseball, whatever sport you're a real fan of,
Mhm.
more than anything because we went to our first game live.
Yeah.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
That's what,
Yeah.
I mean, you can watch a hockey game on TV, but as soon as you go there and watch one live, you're hooked, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, and it's the same thing for baseball and football and anything else. And now here we have the World Cup, the greatest players in the world here playing in the greatest tournament in the world of any kind. And people here in the United States can't go and be exposed to it live because of the prices of tickets. And so it's going to be a big detriment, and unfortunately, it could have been a big plus for soccer internationally if more Americans could afford to go to these games and go to these games.
Yeah, well said. Let's continue that theme though. Resale tickets for the FIFA World Cup final at MetLife Stadium. We're going to actually start at 9,500. The cheapest listing on SeatGeek is 9,511, with most expensive ticket currently standing at 99,100. Yet, Mike, this is another case about what you're talking about. Even in New York, the biggest metropolitan area, and you're talking about the resale market at 9,500, and obviously the most expensive at 99,100. That's a lot too.
Yeah, it's just too much for not only the average American, but even the American that does pretty well to go to a game. And so these stadiums, you want to talk about the final in MetLife, they will be filled by, international fans who are coming over here.
Yeah.
Cody, some thoughts?
No,
Again,
I mean,
in New York.
I know. I mean, I completely agree with Mike. You know, it's a shame that these prices are really ruining just the average fan of trying to go to these games. Like what Mike was saying, you don't probably grow onto a game until you go to a game live. Like I remember for me going to baseball games, soccer games, hockey games. I don't know. I always enjoy the games when you're there live. It's just a whole nother atmosphere. It's like you fall in love all over again, kind of thing. Every time I go to a game. So, like I said, and it's a shame that these resellers are kind of taking that away from us.
I mean, we all remember the first game we went to, right? I mean, I remember I grew up in Boston. The first Boston Bruins game I ever saw live. I remember the first Boston Red Sox game I got to go to. Like, I'll never forget who they were playing, who was playing on the teams, right? I mean, that's what really hooks you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I 100% agree.
Well, you said the key word, Mike, live. And you know what? While I have an opportunity, we're going to go to a live station break and bring in Candy Ebling for it.
You are. Look at that.
Yeah.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning in to Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganrod. Talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how it has evolved and changed. Old school media meets new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There is also an audio version available wherever you get your audiobook. If you want to be a guest on one of these fine shows, or you want topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Last but not least, if you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. Honestly, what are you waiting for? You know you want to do it. Just click it like a share us, and then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, Candy. All right. Well, guess what? St. Louis has been selected to host the 2028 Olympic soccer matches at Energizer Park. How ironic is it? St. Louis is hosting some events, and obviously the same market that had their team, the LA Rams, put away from the St. Louis Rams, LA Rams, a little bit of St. Louis, LA connection. Cody, how about some Southern California? Give me your thoughts.
Well, it's good to see St. Louis getting Olympics there. I know it sucks that the Rams came to LA, but I'm a Rams fan, so I'm happy they're back in LA. You know, they should have been the Super Bowl champs, but we'll get into that later. But
Yeah,
I just heard great things about St. Louis in general. You know, like I know like they have one of the biggest hockey alumni there. Like that actually when they play there, they stay out there. And like I said, Albert Pujols, you have what else is out there? You know, you got the Cardinals. Like I said, a lot of great things out in St. Louis. I heard it's just a great family place as well. So I'm not shocked that St. Louis is getting this huge opportunity. And they got, I believe they have a football field still out there, right?
Yeah, there's actually the St. Louis Battlehawks play there, the United Football League, where the Rams do play there, and they actually draw pretty good crowds for that league, St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah, so it's a good thing for St. Louis. You know, like I said, I'm sorry about the whole Rams thing, but I'm happy they're back in LA.
Well, that's where they're from. Well, they were actually, weren't they Baltimore Rams? I think at one point they originated someplace else, and then they ended up with but nevertheless, I agree. All right. But the Battlehawks do pretty well for the United Football League. Mike, some thoughts about St. Louis getting some of their games.
St. Louis is arguably the best, or was for years anyways, the best soccer city in the United States when it came to amateur soccer, especially youth soccer. And they were tremendously successful in the now defunct major indoor soccer league. The St. Louis Steamers were a huge success, had a huge following. And they've got a great soccer stadium, which is right downtown where they're going to play these matches.
Right.
So there's a lot of support for soccer in that community, and it's always been. We started the show off talking about these international markets. There certainly isn't the international flavor in St. Louis that you have in some places like LA. Right. But as far as a city that has supported soccer and grown the game of soccer at the youth level, I don't think there's a better one in the country than St. Louis. So I think it's fantastic.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, another city that's going to get a soccer event will be Nashville. They were picked to also host the 2028 Olympic soccer event. Everybody knows how big Nashville is these days, Mike. I mean, they're getting everything on the planet. They're building a new stadium. Nashville is becoming a first-rate sports town. It really is with everything going on. What are your thoughts about Nashville being picked to get an event?
Well, they also built a great soccer stadium in Nashville. They've got a great following. And the other thing I didn't mention about St. Louis, but it's very similar. St. Louis and Nashville both hosted international tournament games last year with the FIFA Club World Cup and the other the CONCACAF events that were here in the United States too. So they both have experience with international events, with large events. They have great soccer followings. The one thing I will say about Nashville, having lived there, and St. Louis, who having spent a lot of time there, is the summers in those two cities are brutally hot.
Literally. Okay.
It's going to be hot playing Olympic soccer there in the summertime.
Cody, your thoughts on Nashville?
Oh, I mean, like I said, it's the same way I feel about St. Louis. Like I said, I've heard great things. A lot of players like to retire there. So of course, also helps with the no state tax thing there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm actually going to Nashville next month, so I'm excited about that. So like I said, I've heard great things about Nashville. I know the Titans are even getting a new stadium out there too. So like I said, great thing for Nashville to get more recognition worldwide to host this kind of event, and like I said, I believe the Nashville Soccer Club has done pretty well since they've been in the league. I believe. I know they've made the playoffs at least a few times at least. I don't remember how long they've been in the MLS, but I know they've done well.
They lost to Miami actually this year in the first round.
Okay, that's what.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sounds
actually
about
have family. I have family lives in Nashville. I think Nashville is one of the greatest towns in the country. I've been to St. Louis one time, and I have some good friends out there. St. Louis is another great Midwestern sports town that they support their team. Nashville's another one. Hope to get back there hopefully within the next year or so. But it's a great place, and I enjoy the family when I get a chance to go out there as well. By all means, it's just truly one of the amazing towns out there. One more soccer topic we're going to get to, then we'll drift back to hockey, and that's this. Foxborough is withholding World Cup license amid $7.8 million security funding dispute. Mike, did you hear about that? That they're holding back some money to get for that license?
Yes, I have, being from Massachusetts originally, and I did talk some things. And I don't think people understand that Foxborough is not Boston.
Right.
The Patriots have a stadium there. It's a privately owned stadium.
Right.
And Foxborough is a small town. And they're just trying to protect the people that live in Foxborough because they're expecting Foxborough to, facilitate a lot of things regarding the infrastructure for these matches, which are huge. I mean, they're international matches. I mean, everything from police and security to crowd control, and outside the stadium. I mean, because that is an issue at some of these international matches, and there's a great expense, on the community, and they need to make sure that that's going to be taken care of because they can't afford, and the people that live there can't afford to be holding the bag for millions and millions of dollars. And let's face it, FIFA's got a little bit of a reputation as being corrupt.
Little.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, FIFA. Go ahead, Cody. You want to elaborate on this?
I actually did not even know this was even a thing because I didn't even know the whole Foxborough thing. So I'm glad Mike knew because I have no idea about this.
He's from Massachusetts. He should know this stuff.
Yeah, and I've never been that far over there, so I've never been even close to Boston. So
Well, I've been to Boston. When I went there, though, I went to the Boston Garden. Is what I did. I never made it to Fenway Park, but made it to the Boston Garden. Saw a couple of games over there. All right, let's go ahead and drift our way over to some hockey. Layla Edwards becomes the first Black woman to actually win a gold medal in the United States for U.S. hockey. What an accomplishment for this African American Layla Edwards, Mike, to be able to finally be able to do something that no other African American woman has ever done.
Yeah, great for her. I actually knew about her when she was younger. Grew up playing in Vegas. Also, not a place where a lot of high-level hockey players, female or male, came from for quite a while. I mean, obviously now with the Golden Knights there, they've grown the game quite a bit. But a girl from Vegas, and then also I think she played at Wisconsin, I believe.
Yes,
right?
she does.
Yeah, plays at Wisconsin.
Well, Candy can stay on the rest of the show.
Yeah, plays at Wisconsin for for probably the greatest women's ice hockey coach ever.
Yes.
And a 1980 Miracle on Ice Olympian himself. So, yeah, really good story. I hope and I'm sure it's going to come, whether it's male or female, that we will one day be able to just say that these people are great athletes as opposed to, great black athletes or great white athletes or whatever it comes. But she's definitely a trailblazer, and kudos to her and congratulations to her. I think that's fabulous.
Well, the amazing part about she does it during a week where unfortunately we lost a great man in Reverend Jesse Jackson. So of all weeks for her to be able to have this accomplishment, it's on the heels of Reverend Jesse Jackson, who passed away at the age of 84. Rest in peace, Reverend Jackson, for sure. Cody, you want some thoughts?
No, I mean, this is great for everyone for this. She played well in the Olympics. I know she had even had a few points, and she was big. And I didn't realize that Mark Johnson was still the head coach at Wisconsin. Wow. Yeah. Like I said, you heard his name a lot in those the 1980 Olympics. But like I said, what a great accomplishment for her. This is just good for hockey, good for USA. I believe, did she get an assist in the goal? Yeah, she got an assist in the game. So it either had to been on the tying goal or the winning goal. So like I said, just that accomplishment with winning gold, helping her team win is so great for America and the African Americans. So I'm happy for this.
What do you want to add to this, Ken?
I'm so excited. I mean, she plays for the University of Wisconsin Badgers. She has won 2 world championship medals, including gold at the 2025 World Championship, silver at the 2024 World Championship. Now she's at the Winter Olympics. She at the collegiate level, she has won 2 NC2A national championships with the Badgers in 23 and 25. She was a Patty Kazmaier Award top 3 finalist in 2025 and led the nation with 35 goals during her junior season. She's also won the Bob Allen Women's Player of the Year Award in 2024. The thing that I also want to say that's really cool is that if you don't know the backstory, the one of the Kelsey brothers and his wife sponsored her and her family to go over to the Olympics to be there.
I heard that was Jason Kelsey.
Jason Kelsey, yes, and his wife, and they were over there. They watched her, but they also helped her family get over there. So I thought that was a really cool side story to it.
Great stuff. All right, let's talk about USA Women's a little bit more. They obviously won their first gold since 2018 in dramatic fashion with a 2-1 win today. The USA's goal differential was 33-2 over 7 games. Let me give you the margins here for these. These are surreal. They beat Sweden 5-0. That wasn't bad enough. Italy got beat 6-0. Then they beat Canada 5-0. And then they beat SUI, 5-0. Yeah, Switzerland. There you go. And then they ended up beating Finland 5-0. Then they ended up beating Czechia, I think it is, 5-1. And of course, today's climactic gold medal game was a 2-1 win. But 33-2. You want to talk 33-2? What a dominant run over 7 games. Hats off to these young ladies, Mike. They definitely made us proud.
They did, no doubt about it. But the women's game internationally has got to step it up. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. For those who follow women's ice hockey, the Olympic Games are every 4 years, and it's just an exhibition until we get to the Canada-U.S. gold medal game, typically. But there's also World Championships every year, just like the men, and it's the same thing. It's the U.S. and Canada, and so this isn't to take anything away, because the U.S. has done a great job with its program, and so has Canada, right? I mean, Canada lost their round robin game to the U.S. 5-0, and they were 2 minutes away from beating them and winning another gold medal themselves today. But it's not good for the international game when none of these other countries are stepping up their game. I mean, this isn't something where it's new anymore. I mean, these countries have been playing hockey at this level for, you know, the same amount of time as Canada and the U.S. You know, when it came into the Olympic game, when it came into the Olympics, you know, nearly 30 years ago now, you know, Finland was playing ice hockey, Sweden was playing ice hockey, you know, at the women's level. It's time for some of these other countries to really start stepping it up, putting some money behind their programs and maybe some better coaching or development or whatever they need so that we can go into these Olympics and have a real tournament. And we can have world championships every year and have a real tournament instead of it just being U.S. and Canada. Because let's face it, we love it, the Canadians love it, but the rest of the world, which is everybody else, is not watching.
You know, one lady that I'm extremely proud of is a Farmington native, Megan Keller, who scored the game-winning goal, I think, in overtime. Megan Keller's from Farmington, Michigan as well. Cody, some thoughts?
No, I agree with Mike. It would be nice to see more competition, but I think with the PWHL also expanding and getting more and popular every year, and I know they're going to be expanding to another 2 to 4 teams, I know, pretty soon. I mean, the more that grows, the more professional, you know, teams that we're going to get means more jobs. So maybe we could see some Finland, Sweden, Czechia, Switzerland girls come over from Europe and start playing in the PWHL, and then that helps grow the game, and then we can start seeing better competition. So it would, as much as I love seeing the USA beat Canada, it would also be nice to see a little bit more competition and see better games. I mean, as much as I love seeing USA go 33-2, but also, like, you want to see close games at the same time. You want to be entertained. So I get exactly what Mike's saying.
Well, definitely dominant, that's for sure. Candy?
So Hillary Knight redirected a Layla Edwards rocket at the point past Canadian goalie to tie the game today. So that made Hillary Knight, I believe, one of the highest scoring females in Olympic history.
Yeah, they said that during the game.
For nearly, Knight had been stuck on 14 career Olympic goals. Now she has, the 36-year-old has a record to herself and a gold medalist in her career. One of the other things I will say about Hillary Knight is, where did she play her college? Oh yeah, University of Wisconsin again. Yeah, she does. She is a forward and a captain for the Seattle Torrent of the Professional Women's Hockey League. She's also a captain of the United States Women's National Ice Hockey Team. I agree that it would be nice to see other countries fighting for the ice hockey. Am I happy that it's the U.S. are doing well? Of course, but yes, it would be neat to see some of these other countries in there as well, instead of just always USA versus Canada.
Okay. All right, one more hockey topic to get to, then we'll wrap it up. Fire Up comes on at the top of the hour. And that's it. The end of an era for the Edmonton Oilers. As the Oilers put Calvin Pickard on waivers, with Stuart Skinner already traded, they have officially moved on from their back-to-back finals tandem. Mike, that's it for that duo. We have to Edmonton to move on from there. What are your thoughts about the career, at least so far, of Calvin Pickard, and where does he go?
Well, I had his older brother, Chet Pickard, in Nashville. We actually drafted him. And then I had him again when I was with Florida, when he played in San Antonio for a very short period of time. And he was a kid that I think had every bit as much talent as his brother Calvin, but was rushed into the pro game as a youngster instead of giving time to develop. We've talked about this on this show before. A goaltending position takes a long time or a longer time for players to develop. But they also last longer. I think Calvin Pickard's been a quality goalie. He's always been that backup guy, but he's come in for different teams, and Edmonton most recently, and really been someone they could count on as a number 2 in the playoffs. He's really come up big at some different times in the playoffs. Never going to be a number 1 guy. I'm sure somebody will find a room for him on the bench, maybe even this year or next year. As far as Edmonton, I mean, sooner or later they had to make some moves here, because if there's one thing that's held them back the last few years, it's been their goaltending. And so you got to move on and you got to make some changes. So he'll land somewhere else as a number 2, and maybe he'll get a shot somewhere when it's needed and help that team. And but he's done fine. He's done fine, and hopefully you get a few more years out of him somewhere.
Cody?
Well, he's definitely been a journeyman. Edmonton, Colorado, Toronto, Philly, Arizona, Detroit, and even spent 1 year in Vienna. I think that was during the COVID. But I guess I don't think he's leaving Edmonton. He just got waived and
Right, he got waived. So
yeah,
right.
He's in Bakersfield now. So there's still a chance he can go back up to Edmonton if something happens with either Jari, who's you're pretty injury prone, or Connor Ingram, who's he's struggled ever since his I believe the passing of his either grandmother or his mother. I can't remember which one. But that's why he was always in the player assistance program. I mean, I don't blame him for that one. But Calvin Pickard, I've heard a lot of just good things about just him in general as a person. I heard he's like a really good locker room player. And
right.
I heard, especially in Edmonton, like they loved him in the locker room just because he's a vibe guy, is what they call him. Like he's always giving off good vibes. He's good for the locker room. He probably helps players out. He's probably like what what's his name did in St. Louis. That helped he imitated Tuukka Rask to help the Blues beat the Bruins in the playoffs. Right. He's probably someone that does something like that for Edmonton, and that's probably why Edmonton has done well in the playoffs, because you have someone like Calvin Pickard who's been a journeyman and he's seen a lot of different goalies and he could probably imitate them. So I could see why Edmonton didn't want to get rid of him. I didn't know they just placed him in on waivers to go to Bakersfield. Maybe just take him a little bit of playing time, especially now with the NHL players on a break. So because the AHL's still going.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. That's for sure. Mike, how about giving us some updates from hockey operations, and then we'll go to Candy for a preview for Fire Up.
Well, hockey operations has been taking a little hiatus because the leader of hockey operations, me, just finished his 4th marathon this year in Austin this weekend. So
all right.
Now we're back at it though. We're still pursuing Team 33, aka the Hockey Intelligence Agency, and we're still on target to launch that product before next season. So we'll let everybody know when it's time, and they can get the app on their phone, and for whatever reason they want to use it, they'll get a lot of hockey knowledge from professional NHL GMs, scouts, coaches, and players.
Sounds good. All right, Candy, let's have a preview for Fire Up. What's going on in the country club tonight?
Well, we are going to be talking, obviously, some Winter Olympic updates, since that's obviously on the top of everybody's mind. We're going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks are for sale, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're also going to be talking about what Mahomes is doing, like Brady did, to try and keep more players, and he's restructuring his contract. So those are just a couple of the topics we'll be talking about. But we start at 9:30, so there'll be a little bit of a break in between here, the shows.
Well, we'll use a minute of it for you to give us our final station break. Then we'll have Cody and Mike give us theirs. In fact, we'll go ahead and Mike, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
The easiest way is just by email at msantos@hockeyoperations.org.
And of course, you can see him here on Thursday nights on Sports Wrap. Okay, Cody, you're up next.
Yeah, you can find me at Royally Quacked, where my father and I do a Ducks and Kings podcast. We just hit our 100th episode this last weekend, where we combined what if a Kings and Ducks team would look like, together to make kind of a Ducks high power offense versus the defensive tactics of the Kings, and put everything together and make one super team. So I had a little bit of fun with that. I definitely mixed some things around with that, and we had a lot of fun. And we go live every Saturday on Twitch and YouTube at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Very good.
So.
Well, check out Cody and his dad's show. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And we appreciate Cody's contribution to the network, along with Mike on Sports Wrap. All right, Candy, take us the rest of the way.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how it has evolved and changed. Old school media meets new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. It's also out on audio, so you can get it wherever you get your audio book. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content. There's some good writers out there if you're into the NFL draft. We have one of our writers, Jeremy Ballrick's been writing up little bios for some of the different players that are going to be out there, so go check that out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights, we talk football. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights, you never know what Scott's got up his bag of tricks. And then on this show, we're talking hockey and soccer. You never know. We're going to take a hiatus next week. And then fire up. Never know what we're going to have. And then if you miss college game day on Saturday mornings, hop on over to South Florida Tribune. We have our own version on Inside the Pigskin, where we have a UCLA Bruin that goes against a USC Trojan. And you know how well those two teams like each other. So you got to catch that show Saturday mornings. And then we do a baseball show, baseball talk, especially now with spring training in season. So check out our Saturday mornings. So if you don't want to remember all the times, just turn your notifications on and you're notified every time we go live. And if you want to be a guest or if you have topic ideas you want us to cover, just email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
All right, Candy, thank you very much. Just to let everybody know, this Saturday's lineup, you're going to have Inside the Pigskin around 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll follow it up with Talking Baseball at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. So, very great show, everybody. Mike, of course, we'll see you and Cody in about 2 weeks, so we'll do this better than ever. The next show we have will probably be predominantly hockey as we get ready with everybody coming back from the Olympic break. So we'll be looking at mainly hockey content that night as well, unless something else soccer that comes up in my mind that I want to mention. But it'll be, I'd say, 90-95% hockey, if not 100%. So with that said, on behalf of Mike Santos, Cody Spink, Candy Eveling, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Sports Wrap. I want to thank everybody that participated in the chat room as well. Your comments were very appreciated as well. So you take care. Fire Up is next, and we'll see you on this show in around 2 weeks. Take care, everybody. Have a good night, and have a good weekend. Bye now.